attention is just fractured. We're distracted by everything. We want to read again. We want to take back our attention. And we like the idea of reading, getting back into reading books. Sometimes even that can feel overwhelming. The reason that I think short stories are a masterclass in attention is that a short story has maybe a page, 10 pages to do what a novel does in 2 to 3 to 400 plus words or pages. With short stories, especially, every single word carries weight. Every single word in that short story plays a role that is critical to the entire structure of that story. Not to say that a novel doesn't, but because there's only a limited amount of time, every word has to do some seriously heavy lifting. And that compression, that density, it's training your brain to slow down, lean in, and actually read because you've got to pay attention because it's in a very short span of time. So if you don't pay attention, you're going to miss something really important that you needed to know 3 sentences ago. So you can't just scroll through a short story, you can't skim it. You really do have to read. You have to pay attention. And that's the whole point, right? You want to pay attention. You want to engage with the story. You want to engage with that work of art. You read something because you don't just want to learn something. You want to be changed by it. You want to realize a different perspective. You want to come away from that story a little bit different. And the goal with short stories is that it's not to check something off of a list. It's not to read, I read 1,000 short stories this year. The point is to build the kind of attention that can sit with a great and rich work of art and actually receive it and be changed by it. I want to give you just a handful of short stories to start with. Again, there are so many amazing short stories out there. So this list is not exhaustive, doesn't even try to be exhaustive. It's just a sampling. I'll say that. Yeah. It's a sampling of short stories to just begin your short story journey and eventually, hopefully, start your or reignite your classic literature journey. So I'm going to list or link some of these stories in the description below where I tried to find, because they're so short, some of them are not in a separate book, but I will try to link what I can find. And if you want to go even deeper into this world of reclaiming your attention, being able to read deeply, and also come at these works of art from a biblical perspective, I write a lot more about this over on my Substack, which is also linked in the description below. So the first short story I'm going to recommend is Miss Brill by Catherine Mansfield. So this short story was written in 1920, I believe, and Catherine Mansfield was born in New Zealand, spent most of her very brief, sadly, adult life in England. And Miss Brill it's an interesting, I'm going to say all of these stories are interesting, but this one is maybe 3 pages, 3 or 4 pages. Again, very short. But it's about a seemingly insignificant woman who is people watching and overhears people talking about her and really kind of shakes her out of her state of bliss of being truly in the moment and honestly being present where she is. It's actually really, I think, apropos story for our society too. While she's in the moment and paying attention to what's in front of her, and she's able to listen to what's happening in other conversations where people don't think that she's paying attention. And so people are being careless with their words. And I think that's so true with today's like people can be so careless with their words online and kind of take someone out of their reverie of that moment of just enjoying life, enjoying the present moment, enjoying the band that was playing in the park where she's sitting. It has a really interesting conclusion, but Catherine Mansfield leaves that conclusion up to you, which a lot of short stories do. So they don't always neatly resolve themselves. You kind of have to sit with it, which is why I think they're so important to to start with because it also starts to train your mind of how do these classical writers communicate. It's a really interesting story. The next short story that I really enjoyed is called Luck by Mark Twain. Luck is a story about this gentleman who somehow, no matter what he does, every mistake he makes turns out in his benefit. And it's narrated by this person who just can't believe that he's watching this person make blunder after blunder, mistake after mistake, and somehow come out on top. It's a really delightful read. Okay, next short story that I recommend, but it's a little disturbing. And it's The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. Does anyone remember reading The Lottery in school? I remember it because it has always stuck with me for decades at this point. I just remember it being disturbing and I did not expect the ending at all, which again, we all love stories that catch us by surprise that we didn't see coming. I definitely did not see that ending coming, and so I don't want to give too much away, but just read it. I think you'll understand what I mean. Okay, and I would be remiss if I did not add some Edgar Allan Poe to the short stories collection. So, this one in particular, this one, this is actually a copy that my dad had as a child, and it's a collection of all of Edgar's stories, short stories. So, of course, I have to mention The Telltale Heart. That's kind of a tongue twister. Say that 5 times fast. Telltale Telltale Heart. So, The Telltale Heart is about a gentleman who becomes irrationally enraged by someone else's disability to the point of murder. And I'm not going to give the ending away. I think most of us have read this story. It had been forever, so I came at it with newly fresh eyes because I don't remember what happened. But when I read it again, it shook me. So I'd have to say that I finished that story with a gleeful sense of satisfaction. The other story that I recommend of his, I mean, honestly, just get a collection of his. All of his stories are weird. They're just weird. Like Edgar was a weird dude and kind of sad, but man, I really like his style of prose. Like the man can wordsmith a sentence and craft a sentence that is just beautiful. So I really like his overall style of writing too, even if the subject material is a bit um on the strange side. Another good story of his is the cask of, how do I pronounce that? The cask of Amontillado. I hope I said that right. The cask of Amontillado. That is a story about revenge. He seems to have quite a few stories about that. This character in particular decides to enact the cruelest kind of revenge on someone who just, in his opinion, enacted way too many injustices or injuries. Interesting story. And then I am going to recommend Grimm's Fairy Tales. Now, these are some seriously short stories. I mean, short, like a page or two. And the goal isn't to just speed read through all of these short stories to get through them. It's just adding it as a part of your day, as a part of your reading ritual, getting back into reading, because you'll find the more short stories you read, you actually do want to read more. And then what I also love about short stories is that it gives you a taste of an author's style of writing and the way that they craft a narrative and the story and the prose. So it gives you kind of it's like an intro to their longer works, which is also a huge benefit. When you're going into a longer novel by Charles Dickens, Shirley Jackson, Mark Twain, any of these other authors, you're coming at it with, okay, I kind of have a general sense of how this author writes. So you're not coming into it completely cold. But the Grimm's fairy tales, so these were collections of tales and folklore from Germany, which I have a lot of German heritage, and so I've always loved these stories, and there's a lot. There's a lot of them. But the brothers Grimm did not come up with these stories. They collected them and they kind of made them their own. But really, really fun stories. Like you've got Rapunzel. Who remembers Rapunzel? But the real version, not the Disney version. Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Cap. Is that Little Red Riding Hood? I don't know. Other authors that have collections of short stories are, like Agatha Christie, which she is my favorite, all-time favorite mystery writer of all time. I mean, she is the queen of mystery for a reason, and she also has collections of short stories. So, find just something that interests you. Start with go you could go to Barnes and Noble, or you could go to Amazon, of course, or a secondhand bookstore, or a local antique store. That is also a little hack if you're wanting to read more. Like, go to an antique store, and sometimes some of them will have a section of old classic books that they'll resell. So check that out. So don't sleep on short stories. They're a great way to get some reading in, feel like you're accomplishing something, and not scrolling. Because they're so short, it's even less of an excuse to pull out your phone and scroll on social media, because you've got a few minutes to read a story that's actually going to engage most of your senses, but a tactile thing that you can read and engage with. I would love to know, what other short stories have you read that you really love that stuck with you? What would you add to this incredibly not exhaustive list? I would love to know that. And again, if you like going deeper on topics like this, books, and just intentional living, creating better habits around how we use technology, I write about all of that over on my Substack. So I'd love to see you over there. And until next time, I will talk to you later. Bye.